Keeping it honest.
You are fake news.
Keeping it real.
I want to smoke some pot.
And keeping it libertarian.
I'm a libertarian for life.
These are the Fakertarians.
My superpower is being honest. I'll eat your ass. I will.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jeremy Kantorowitz. I am here with one of John Hudak's sock accounts, Kevin Shaw, as well as Drew Breckus. You may remember him from our very first episode. And we are here just to kind of talk about current events today. No real agenda. So let's go ahead and get started. We definitely encourage you to, chime in the comments, help us keep the show going. So, yeah, where would you guys like to start today?
Maybe the quasi-fascist coup attempts like a couple days ago.
I suppose that's a good
place to start.
I mean, weren't they just? It was mostly peaceful, right?
Even if like 90% of the people who originally were there were for peaceful protesting, I think almost everyone was referring to the people who like actually broke into Capitol Hill when they're talking about like the rioters. In fact, I just want to refer to the rioters entirely. I don't care about people who didn't like storm the Capitol that day.
I think the death toll was 5. 5 people died that day.
5, yep. That somebody supposedly tasered themselves in the balls till they had a heart attack.
I think somebody fell.
Somebody fell.
Somebody got shot.
Somebody got shot. A police officer got hit in the head with a fire extinguisher.
I tell you, it is probably one of the saddest things about this. I've seen this expressed a few places by a few people, but it's just like, of all the great reasons to storm the goddamn Capitol, this is what you chose. This is what drove people to fucking revolution, is to not depose a tyrant, but to preserve one. I'm ashamed. I'm so bummed. I woke up psyched, like, what? They're storming the Capitol. Let's look into this.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Great.
2021 will have many more disappointments to come.
Just a goddamn bummer, dude.
It's just it's crazy to see so many try to dismiss it or well, even compare it. Seeing so many people try to compare it to the likes of BLM protests and other events, and it's just not. Trying to take over the Capitol to install your dictator is just absolutely so. it's just crazy. Like what in anybody's mind is makes that remotely justifiable?
Rage on behalf of the machine.
Right. One thing, if I'm an optimistic man, if we're to find silver linings in this, I've seen a couple of Trumpers on my friends list. I do have them, and they have been saying, whatever her name was, the chick that got shot by the cops, I'm like, say her name, and like they're trying to be Breonna Taylor, and I'm like, okay, so you're making a gross conflation here of chick shot in bed, innocent by the police, and chick who literally broke into a government building and was shot by the police. Okay, no equality between these two, but I'm pleased that you're now concerned about police brutality. I'm pleased that now that it's one of yours, you give a fuck. Like maybe now you'll be on our side when we're talking about, hey, these cops need to stop killing people.
It broke into the federal building to help a like fascist takeover of like the country, not for like any like good libertarian ends. I think we had to be clear about that.
And there's some wussy ass fascists, dude. All they did was show up and take selfies. It's like,
we're still lost since they got in there.
It's fucking silly, dude. It's all LARPing. No one's fucking ready to have a revolution.
We've gotten to the end of our reactionaryism. What do we do now? We're in this building. I have no fucking clue what we're gonna do.
I still enjoyed watching them go in and stay inside the velvet ropes, like that's orderly insurrection.
I don't know, man. I wish people were ready to do this shit over kids in cages or over any number of, authoritarian missteps by the state in the last few years. But this is actually just depressing to watch.
I was
Right,
I was
well, that's the thing
hoping
is-
that people seeing how easy it was for them to storm the Capitol, they think, oh, maybe some other things might be easily stormed.
How,
For good
how
reasons.
well armed were they? I assumed that they let them storm the Capitol because they didn't want like a shootout, and also the like rioters just overwhelmingly outnumbered the number of police there.
No open carry in DC,
No-
and
okay,
no
yeah.
pistols.
All right,
Whack.
just
Yeah,
I don't-
it's
tasers to
carrying.
tase yourself in the balls, apparently, and pipe bombs and other
yeah, I
things
don't
that that totally
Yeah,
weren't
I
harmful at all.
yeah, I don't know how incredibly armed many of these people were. I mean, I'm sure some people had stuff on them, but I suppose maybe not want to take the risk for an all out shootout in the Capitol.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like they could have had stuff on them. Like you just don't you don't know. Like you have like this deranged
It has to be
conspiracy
concealed.
theory. Like group
Right.
pretty much don't care about like no pistols here. I mean, they were willing to
Right.
go to jail for like what's the penalty for illegally carrying a handgun in DC? I think it's like a super like serious charge if you break into like government buildings with it, but just carrying it, I don't know if that's going to be as much as like the amount of charges these rioters are going to get for storming the Capitol Hill.
I think I saw one picture with a guy who was open carrying on his hip. It
Okay.
was a guy also wearing camouflage and mask, and I think it's a zip tie guy.
Oh, okay.
I could be mistaken, but I think the zip tie guy had a gun.
The pipe bombs can be charged under a statute for a weapon of mass destruction. Technically, I was watching a lawyer a couple nights ago. His name is Uncivil Law. You can go follow him on YouTube. He's a conservative lawyer, but he always gives a fair take. He defended Ahmaud Arbery, for instance, and I always feel his voice is very refreshing and to the point and well informed on these issues.
Let's see here. Gas, bats, and bombs that they did.
From what I heard, I thought the
they
pipe
didn't just
bombs
have
were at
guns,
other
they did have other
locations.
things.
I heard they did controlled detonations on pipe bombs, but I think they were in other places. I don't think they were at the Capitol building.
Yeah, I believe at the DNC and RNC headquarters is where they
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
had the pipe bombs.
Okay.
Goddamn ridiculous.
So, all right, Jason. Yeah, I'm not really gonna cry over somebody sitting at Pelosi's desk. I mean, he actually had kind of a funny take when he was interviewed. He said something along the lines of, "She's not enjoying it, so I figured I might as well have," and I thought it was hilarious. But once again, it's looking at those underlying reasons why they were there. They literally are there to install Trump as some kind of a dictator. Like he just why? I just can't comprehend it. But I suppose I haven't gone down this cult road that they have.
From surveys I've seen, it seems like solidly, like 50% of like the Trump base or more like believe that the election was stolen from them, and you can't unconvince them. And that's going to persist probably for a couple 4 years or I don't know how long, but they're riled up.
Right. Well, just even after this, the level of, what would you call it, cope, that they're just going through the mental gymnastics. All it was Antifa, and this is just part of it. And Trump's what was the one I saw? Trump's at Cheyenne Mountain as we speak, looking at Nancy Pelosi's laptop. Get ready for the national lockdown while a new government is installed. Like,
I fucking hate how far people on the left and the right are willing to go to excuse bad behavior from their team. It's like, we're fucking all over these BLM protests and, you burned down a Target and this and that and all these great criticisms of how terrible you are. But then when it's their people, those must have been lefties. That was Antifa. Yeah, that couldn't be us. We have jobs. We're not snowflakes and cucks like you guys. We don't break stuff. We're not immature. It's just stupid. Just, ugh.
Didn't that one guy get super upset? Like he was a QAnon guy, and then people's like, no, he was Antifa, and he got super upset. I was like, no, I'm not Antifa. What are you guys talking about?
What about remember the guy with the bison head? Or, I don't even know what he
Was that the one? I don't know.
People were saying that he was Antifa, but
Yeah.
like he's a QAnon dude, and
Yo.
like he's
And
pictures of him like with the signs on it.
I'm 100% sure that Mr. Buffalo Head has some very objectionable ideas that I would not enjoy. But listening to his interviews, I'm like, I want to drop acid with this guy. He's like an interdimensional shaman, and he sees the pedophiles, bro. He sees them, and he's here to fight them with Trump. I'm like, I don't agree with you, dude, but we gotta hang out. Like, you seem chill. I want to fucking delve into interdimensional pedophile destruction with you. Like, take me with. Let's hunt these guys down.
You just got to go to the
Probably did
basement
take like the
of
most
the
iconic
non-existent
picture
basement of
ever
that pizza shop.
in the chambers.
It's just crazy how far the conspiracy has gone. It's like now Trump is a warrior for God, here to free us from the lizard people. And like, wow, like you people are just, you're all in on this shit. All right.
I do
it's
think it is
definitely-
a requirement to be a lizard person to become like a senator or above, basically.
A congressman, they're just feeling you out. They want to see if you can become a lizard person, and then that maybe you can become a senator. Maybe after a couple terms.
Yeah, it's just the conspiracy that goes into Q and just everything around it. And I mean, this was kind of the culmination of it, but they seem to be trying to take it a step further. But I don't know how far. I just don't. I guess I don't get it because I'm not a conspiracy guy. You know, so I just feel like how far do you really want to take this? Because now that Biden's been certified as as the president-elect and everything, it's everything that they have led up to is wrong. And so now you have to just go another step further and another step further to maintain this conspiracy. And I just can't imagine to what point does it go after all of this.
What we saw a couple days ago might just be the start, because like what happens during the inauguration, what happens after that, who knows? We got anything could happen. I mean, Trump being elected in the first place, like we kind of entered post reality, and it's just getting weirder and weirder.
I think we're seeing the beginning of a long, shitty divorce. That's the unfortunate truth, man. Is like there's still leftovers from the Civil War floating around in people's heads. They still got this fucking secessionist South will rise again kind of. There's just a whole fucking thing there, and you can't force these people to live together. You can't force them to live under one rule or like each other. So just let them break up, dude. I'm done. When the Civil War comes, I'm not on either side. Y'all can just kick each other's teeth in, and I'm gonna go live in the mountains like a fucking crazy person.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'm just heading into the mountains.
I wish it was like that, because that would be so much easier. But it's just that there's so many moderates in America that don't want that. So like,
Right.
yeah, it's not like the good old days where some aristocrat would just tell you what to think, and then you would like be drafted into the army and go die for them. Like,
And
not good old
The
days.
real fucking truth of my heart is I don't think that's necessary. I think that conservatives and liberals have every reason to live together. Even my friends on the far left and, further right, like the ANCAPs. Like, I mean, I got friends all over the damn place. There's no reason why any of them should be telling anyone else how to live. Like, I think it's perfectly acceptable for them to live as neighbors and be friendly. But so long as they hate each other and they're rampaging in the streets and shooting each other and killing each other, just be done with it, dude. Just drop out the fucking union, end the false contract, the red, white, and blue lie, and let's get on with our lives. I'm done. Fuck this revolution. It's slow and it's stupid, and there's no winners.
I'm interested for how like social media is going to trend, because I think that's another really important discussion when it comes to the storming of Capitol Hill, because these people legitimately thought that President Trump is the rightful president and Joe Biden is like a false king or false president, and they need to go do what's right, basically.
Mm-hmm. Right, and social media has festered all of this. Because that's where people get their information. They can crawl into their little corners and constantly get fed this information, and essentially a feedback loop that they can then just hide from the world and stick to just that little corner of the internet. And social media has played a huge part in festering that. And I don't think blanket banning a bunch of accounts are, necessarily going to fix that. I mean, sure, right now that could stop some of the bleeding, but ultimately to what ends does it have? Or, even to say it might be too little too late at this point.
They might feel vindicated by it, like they were right all along. They're censoring us. That's probably how a lot of them are going to feel.
Well,
right.
You know me, I stand the McPolice censoring everyone. Like Zuckerberg wants to control all of our thoughts. I'm all for it as long as it's voluntary and privately done. I'll wear the mind control headset to force me to think the right things. I'll do it for him.
Take your that sounds like you would take a blue pill every day.
What, a white pill? Because things are better than a lot of people think.
Oh, is it a white pill?
It's the white pill.
I have no idea what all these pills are.
Blue's you're just not woke, and however that applies. Red pill is you've learned the truth. A black pill is there's no hope. Everything's nihilistic. Everything's gonna fail. And white is
blue pill is Xanax, bro.
Or Viagra.
Yeah. I was wondering why they're always talking about boner pills. PMC's always talking about boner pills and asking people for blowjobs. I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
What's weird to me is it seems like the roles are kind of reversed in the response to Trump being banned from Twitter, at least in general. I have the rare exceptions on both sides, but let's say you're just a normal liberal, a left-leaning person who presumably favors the notion of free speech. You should be a little concerned about the actual sitting president being silenced. Even if what he's saying is fucking stupid, shouldn't you want to preserve the right to hear it? I mean, that seems and they're all naturally just fuck Trump, get him out of here. And then the conservatives, who you would presume would take the position of private property and say well, these companies can do whatever they wish. That's their product. They can ban them if they want. They've been jumping on this. What? Free speech? You're violating the rights. So it's everybody seems to be on the opposite side, whether they support.
Yeah, everyone in weird times.
I don't fucking get it. Just be consistent, man.
Well, it's because they they like when a corporate entity like Twitter, or whatever it may be, they like it when there's an outcome that they like. If Twitter went and banned, I'm trying to think of far left people that are, if Twitter went and banned a bunch of tankies, every right winger would be absolutely not every, I suppose would be exceptions, but you'd see a mass rejoicing from a lot of right wingers because the tankies disappeared. So it's not about consistency or principle. It's just celebrating your desired outcome.
People are just really polarized right now. Everybody's falling to splitting, where you're not seeing other human beings as a realistic whole. It's my team and their team. And everything's black and white. Everything's tribal.
You've hit it, man. Tribalism has replaced morality. We're not concerned with the actual value of a policy or its outcomes. We're concerned with, did our guy make it? Did their guy make it? Fuck their people. My team wins. It's
right.
So
and that's
small.
how the state maintains control, because everybody's always focused on fighting each other instead of going vertically instead of horizontally. We're not looking at the authority itself. We're fighting each other over who should be in authority.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing with Twitter banning all these accounts. You know what? Yeah, they have the absolute right to do that. Nobody owes Trump a byte of data on Twitter's servers. So there's really no problem with it. But hey, we can definitely have conversations around, was that the right thing to do? Is that something that should be done? What's the longer term effects of it? For me, when it comes to social media, they have the absolute right to do whatever they want. But at the same time, Twitter, like I said earlier, kind of festered this entire thing. They, to a point, actually created this world leaders policy that literally excused Trump's behavior on Twitter, even though everything was blatant violations of their terms of service. they created this world leader policy, and then he starts tweeting, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And so they put a warning on their Twitter, on his tweets. What the hell is a warning gonna
He
do?
got so many exceptions to begin with.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a really good thing that he was censored. I think it should have been done a long time ago.
Right.
And I know the take of, well, isn't this concerning that Twitter can silence the president? I think Twitter is like 5% of the social media shares. I think objectively speaking, like Facebook censoring Trump is like a much bigger thing. That might actually not be true because Trump has probably a bigger presence on Twitter. And he's probably done really well for their platform, which is probably why they've given him so many exceptions. But at the end of the day, like, people just love their president and will believe whatever, like, conspiracy theory of how he really is, like, the God King. They'll believe it. And it's unfortunate. And the only thing you can do seems to be is to just kick him off. And then
I'm just imagining him right now, like behind like 10 socks, just tweeting furiously right now.
Just, crazy idea. Let's just let him have it. You guys really want him that bad? Like, you move out. We'll give you like Mississippi or something. Y'all can just go hang out and fucking Trump can be your leader. And God bless you. Have fun. Just take them all. Just self-identify. Like, round them up and let them go. And they'll all run and frolic and be free and support a millionaire with their tax dollars. It'll be great.
Yeah, and well, that would be an interesting thing to watch. Yeah, they can all live.
Can all go to Trumpistan.
Yeah, and then they can export shitty steaks and like bad classes, like like a university that fails. Like, it'll be great.
Was there an airline in there too? Failed casinos everywhere.
Yeah, legit. They can export all kinds of failed businesses. It'll be a wonderful country. Frankly, it'll just get them the fuck out of my little corner of life. That would be nice.
I have been absolutely like amazed though at all of a sudden burning the thin blue line flags, and they hate the cops now. And it's like, this is so crazy. Everything is just flipped. And now you have like people like Democrats that were previously talking about like, defund the police. Suddenly they're like back in the cops. It's just such a weird topsy-turvy.
Yeah. Did you see Liberty Hangout? Liberty Hangout posted shit about fuck the police now. I was like, what is this timeline? Are you serious? They got all God Emperor Trump on us, and now they're like, fuck the police. I'm like, I'm not sure how to feel about this outcome. Like, you're right for the wrong reasons.
Right. Yeah, because where are they at this point?
It's been fun to watch them become ever more terrible than we ever thought possible.
Right.
Like, they used to just be kind of bad. I even liked them in a way. Like, I liked Moldau. I still kind of, like, TJ and I don't talk a lot, and we disagree on a lot of things. But, like, I never had any, like, personal beef with them. I'm just like, here's some really bad right-leaning libertarian takes. Like, I can fucking shit on these guys and still not hate them personally. But, yeah, they've gotten really, really bad. Like, a way I never even thought possible. Just like they've totally given up any illusion of libertarianism, and it's all just, fucking, he's my king. He's my emperor.
Right.
It's like we're at this point where we're trying to figure out, is Justin just having fun with it now? Is this parody, or is he just completely off his fucking rocker now?
Right. Well, and we don't know exactly who completely controls the Liberty Hangout. Twitter.
That is the single greatest act of parody I've ever found. And I stand and applaud his belief that Trump for.
Nope, you kind of cut out there, Kevin.
Oh, no. Well, and the gist of it was that would be the best act of self-parody ever. He had me fooled all along.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of...
TJ left a long time ago, as one of the commenters points out.
Yeah. I mean, they're grifters. That's they're just whatever makes them money. It'll be off to the next thing after Trump disappears. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say after Trump disappears. Who knows if he will?
He's not going anywhere. He's gonna run himself a media empire. He's got so many followers.
Huh. Do you think Liberty Hangout is still going to be all on his dick even when he's not the president?
Oh yeah.
They're so committed.
They're prepared for the 2024 election already.
Wow. I mean, it really, I mean, what really got them going was Trump, kind of rising up, and then, Caitlyn owning the libs, and it's probably going to get to that point again. It's time's a flat circle, and we're kind of seeing a repeat of things. I mean, 2009, we, started with, the Democrats holding both houses of Congress and Obama being sworn in. And I think we'll just kind of start seeing that cycle again. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with, social media being much, much more prominent now than it was in 2008, 2009. So we'll see where everything goes.
I saw a good take that it was never about backing the blues, only about backing the blue when they're against black people only.
Yeah.
Like all other cases, don't back the blue.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. If you're going to back the blue and then squish them indoors and hit them with fire extinguishers as you try to install your your dictator, then it definitely was never about backing the blue. It was completely about not liking BLM.
Oh man.
Such a strange thing. There's a weird thing about the identity of these fellows. And I'm sure if you have any friends on the right or any like real proud right-leaning libertarians, like you might know this guy who is at once like, down with the police and yet envisions himself as some sort of outlaw or some sort of rebel, like, here I am breaking the law, doing illegal things. But yeah, I back the blue. Yeah, thin blue line. Come take it, bro. Come and take it. Gadsden flag's on my truck. But yeah, no, I love the police. It's like, how do you deal with the cognitive dissonance of maintaining these two identities? Like, you realize the imaginary enemy that you're preparing yourself for is the one that you're cheering for. It's right there in front of you.
I like the meme that if somebody has a thin blue line flag and a Gadsden, you're legally allowed to siphon their gas.
I like that idea.
If only people would explode upon being a hypocrite or uttering a hypocritical statement.
So I have, in my work in these anti-statist circles, come across the perfect answer to police brutality. I think I can solve it. You want to know what it is?
What's that?
Get this. Mandatory LSD for cops. Just mandatory. If you're going to be a police officer and make life or death decisions, you need to talk to God. And then you get a gun. And then I'll bet you we'd see a whole different sort of person behind the fucking badge, making them fucking come to terms with their own darkness, face down their shadows.
I like
That's
that
crazy.
idea.
You ever done DMT?
Yes, sir, I have.
I figured. I kind of like that idea. Yeah, make the cops trip as part of their training.
No, legit. And we further, because this is a policy we're pushing as a thing in the Libertarian Psychedelic Caucus. We further, if you're going to run for office or if you're going to vote, if you're going to make a decision, you're going to cast a vote about how your neighbors should live their lives. Try to tell other people to live the way you need to I want to know that you're fully mature and capable of doing. Otherwise, voting is violence, dude. You don't get that right if you haven't even explored the universe yet.
Man, I went off this fucking planet so bad. You had to say universe.
I think there's something to it, man. It's everybody has their own experiences on psychedelics, but the one universal thing that everybody seems to report is genuinely coming to know themselves, coming to terms with life and death, and seeing their reflection in all living things, seeing in nature a reflection of themselves, and finding their place in the cycle of eternity. And I think it would be harder to pull the trigger on a man who's begging and crying and screaming for his life if you had, in fact, experienced that. If you saw yourself in him, maybe it would be harder to kill him.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, like, societally, I think we have dulled empathy. Something about our culture in the United States, I don't know if we manufacture it or it's what creates this tribalism, what creates this the splitting, but it all comes down to, it's like a lack of empathy for your fellow man, a lack of understanding and seeing people as a full human being with flaws and positives, negatives, pros, cons, and just seeing them as black or white, good or bad. I think it all comes down to a lack of empathy or understanding.
And that
And I
all
think
comes down,
psychedelics would be great for that.
and that all comes down to video games. People play Call of Duty, and now they can't like understand that if once you shoot someone, they don't like respawn, basically. So they have no empathy for people.
Yeah.
And I tell you this, I meet two kinds of people in my adventures, and everybody experiences suffering. This is a universal truth. We all suffer. But there are two types of responses to suffering. One says, I have suffered, and I will spare that experience to others. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure no one else goes through what I went through. And then there's another type that seems smaller-minded to me, that they suffer and they say, well, I had it bad. Everyone else should have it bad too. You should have it as bad as I had it. I went through it. You should go through it. And I understand it's a response to pain. They're like, I had a bad life growing up. Why do you have it? You fucking little kids are so coddled and smushed. Like, yeah, our dad didn't beat us with a stick. That's good. That's a good thing. That's society progressing. I'm sorry you got beat with a stick. That doesn't mean that society forevermore should inflict the abuse that you suffered. And so I judge people to some extent by their response to suffering. Do you wish to spare others your experiences, or would you force them onto others? And that's where this lack of empathy sort of expresses itself. You say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I had to. Well, maybe people shouldn't have it the way you had it. Maybe that sucks. Maybe supporting people is a good idea sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, the I had to, yeah, you had it.
Sorry to ramble there, man, but I look
No.
at people and I see this all the time. I've run for office a few times out here, and I get into debates with Democrats and Republicans alike. And this is like a constant thing I noticed is like when we were talking about immigration, she's a sweet lady, she's a Republican, and she says something like, I immigrated from such and such, and when I got here at 3 years old, they sat me down and they interrogated me and asked me all these questions and this and that, and it was horrible. I'm like, wow, that sucks. And she's like, yeah, that's why we need strict immigration policy today. I went through it. And I'm like, but ma'am, don't you think it's somewhat excessive that the military interviewed a 3-year-old as if she was a threat to national security? I think what you went through sucks. No one else should go through it. Like, you just haven't made that step yet. In your mind, it's just like, well, this is how it should be because that's how I had it. And they're not necessarily bad people, but I think their response to things, it kind of lacks empathy. It's more of a self-centered way of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was hurt. I want other people to feel what I felt. It's kind of part of that too.
Yeah.
I hear that shit all the time, especially from elder generations condescending to younger generations, talking about how bad they had it. I'm like, yeah, you had it bad. There's a reason we don't do that anymore, is because that's fucking child abuse, dude. Like, come on. Like, why can't we get better? Why can't we want people to suffer less than us? People don't even want there to be like social programs. And believe me, I'm actually opposed to the current nature of the welfare state. I don't agree with like these redistributive, forceful measures, but there's people out there who oppose there being any sort of safety nets. They don't want to do anything to help anybody. It's like, well, why, dude? Why would you want to live in a world where you just like don't care about anyone? It's everyone.
These social Darwinists, basically. Yeah, I can't stand them.
The reason this species got to be the fucking baddest on the planet is because we gave a fuck about each other. When they go back to determine when civilization started, you'd think they'd look for like tools or something, right? The first made tools. That's not it. They go back and they look for like when they found people with mended femurs, people who had broken their femurs but survived. Because if you were an individualist, every man for yourself society, that person is dead. They're never going to survive. But if you're the sort of person who goes back and cares for your sick and you're injured, that person will survive and have time to mend. So when they start seeing people with healed femurs, they're like, yeah, you're now like, you're functioning as like a cooperative tribe now. That's why we survived, dude. You're rejecting the very instinct that got us to the point that we can make these decisions. Like, I don't know why you'd wish to go backwards in time. Why you see no reason to help people.
Right.
It's a real bummer. Because if we gave a fuck about each other, like a little bit of a fuck about each other, like we have the resources to live a very comfortable life. We could just make sure nobody was hungry, nobody was homeless. Not everybody's going to have a yacht and a mansion, but everybody could be fine. And people could still go out and have yachts and mansions. Like, we don't even have to eat the rich. We could just eat the war budget. And we just don't care about each other as much as we care about fighting with strangers.
No.
It's part of why I think bottom unity is so important. For forever, libsocs and caps have been fighting each other, and there's no need for it. Like, we can coexist, and we can we can recognize that we both have valid human rights. We should be able to organize our societies the way we see fit, and there doesn't need to be any conflict. And I think there's a lot of potential in. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
I want to hear. No, personally, I want to hear what the dogs have to say. I don't know.
If only.
They might have something important to say about bot immunity. No, I agree with the general premise. It's actually been at the core of my work in this movement because I've been in both circles. I've been able to kind of, by virtue of just being where I've been, I've gotten to swim in both soups, and I've seen good people on both sides who are simply motivated by a desire to make decisions for themselves and not be ruled by a government. And these are both movements and philosophies that I respect, and it's such a shame to me that they've villainized each other to the point that, I left the LSC. I'm not a member anymore, but when I was over there, it's just all about these guys are the villains. Fuck them. They're the bad guys. And then the Mises kids, it's the same thing. The left, they're the bad guys. And I'm like, this is so dumb. If you guys would put a little bit of that effort into like cooperating, imagine what you could accomplish, because you're speaking to two crowds who typically hate each other. We're both drawing away from the statist right and left, right? Like, the Mises guys can go talk to the Republicans. We can go talk to the Democrats. I live in a blue state, dude. Like, I'm specifically pitching to a blue crowd. Why should we hate each other? Could we not just go to our respective corners, draw from the people that listen to us, and focus on our areas of commonality? We're never going to agree on economics. Fine. But we agree on the freedom to make your wrong economic decisions, right? Like, live and let live.
Well, about that, do you include I make a distinction between anarcho-communists and mutualists. Anarcho-communists seem to be a lot more rabid to me from my experience with them, and it doesn't seem they want to make compromise on people being allowed to have a private property society if they so choose to do that, and however way you would determine that after determining how property should be properly redistributed, if it needs to at all. But if but anyway, however you get to it, if you had a society that did have private property, it seems like anti-coms are not about allowing that, to me, from my experience with them. Do you, what's your experience? I feel like mutualists are a lot more chill, basically.
It is tough to paint the libertarian left with any sort of broad brush. They consist of a great many of philosophies, none of which agree with each other. They all disagree on everything. No two leftists get along. So it's it's hard to say. There are some for whom just the very use of the word capitalism is the end of the discussion. You have chosen to call yourself a capitalist. To them, they hear everything bad in the world. There will be no understanding. And likewise, there are friends of mine on the right who just, you call yourself a libsock, you're a socialist, Mao, Stalin. Well, it's the end of the discussion. There's no getting past that. But I believe among both of these demographics, there exist individuals smart enough to recognize the right of the other. You can go have a society built purely on private property where that is the core, the law of the land. And I can go have one focused on, voluntary, mutual aid. And we can see by virtue of example which of these societies works, because that's all that matters. If I'm wrong, I'd like to know. If your society is the best in the world,
let people see what works.
Yeah, I'll come goddamn living in Kapistan. If you prove to me 10 years down the line that you've created the best society for everyone to live, fine. I will admit that I'm wrong and I'll come live there. I happen to think that's not the case. I happen to think Kapistan would be a private tyranny indistinguishable from a state. I think a MIC government is no better than a government. But if you can demonstrate to me that free markets will regulate themselves and save the day, then God bless you, dude. Get it done. I want you to have that freedom. I just want to have the freedom to my own economic self-determination with my comrades and do the same. And maybe we can trade between us. There's no reason that these two very different societies couldn't, trade on a broader free market and benefit from each other's productivity. So why do we have to hate each other? It's just a tough sell to both sides. They view each other as enemies,
Yeah, the way I see it is you have a market society and you have a communal society. I think over time they're just kind of blend together, and they're going to pick the best of both worlds. And that's why I like anarcho-synergy. Lib-cent supremacy.
So would you agree with Noam Chomsky that an anarcho-capitalist society would basically be the same as Nazi Germany?
Not necessarily.
Or the Nazi Germany, I think, is Noam's words.
Well, so I don't necessarily accept that premise, because to be worse than Nazi Germany, you would have to be an authoritarian, right wing, driven by the extermination of other races and things. Like there's an element of racial superiority there that I don't think is implicit in anarcho-capitalism. It's just that if you create a system whereby he who owns the most has the most power, you've just allowed someone to buy what was previously voted on. That's it. Like, you've not changed the fundamental core of hierarchy and power in your society, and thus I don't believe you've created true anarchy. But you might disagree with me. You might think that the true nature of free markets is that they are so good at keeping themselves in check that left to their own devices without a government intervening, they will keep, bad things from happening. I don't believe that. But if you do, get down, buddy. Go fucking live with other people who think like you, and let's see.
Sure. It's not that I think if only 3 people owned all the property in the world that it would be a good system. It's that I think that if you allow human beings to homestead properly in a just way, there'll be enough owners of land and other resources that you won't have the sort of problems that many communists tell me it would be. Huge problems within the anarcho-capitalist system.
It is not only my anecdotal experience, but within my limited studies of economics, it is the tendency of capitalist nations to lean towards economies of scale, consolidation of large firms into monopolistic competition. So if this holds true in an anarcho-capitalist system, my best prediction is that a few firms would end up owning everything and thus owning all the political power that was once fought over by political parties. I just don't see it being significantly different from a state in that respect. It would just now be corporations vying for power instead of political parties. And the corporations who ended up owning the most property would own the most political power. I find that to be dangerous in a way. It could be good. What if those corporations were good? What if you just happened to get these really moral corporations that got a hold of everything? Yeah, cool. It's the story of the just tyrant. I'm with that, but I don't think that's likely.
I think in a society where competition is completely open to worker-owned and sole proprietorships and stuff like that, I think over time we get our answers, and we'd see maybe that a mix of all this is actually the answer. Maybe there should be sole proprietorships. Maybe there should be what we'd call corporations, but it would be different than what we have today. And say there's the communes or there's completely worker-owned industries. I think all of that can function together, and all of it's viable, and everybody can live and let live.
But a lot of socialists and Marx would say if they are all working together, it's sort of still capitalism, basically, right?
There would exist capitalism in the world, but my goal is not to purge capitalism from the world. My goal is to serve the global proletariat. I want to raise heads that are too low, not lower those that are too high. If you want an opulent free market economy and you have the resources in your neighborhood to do it, get down. Not my business. I don't fucking care. But what I'd like to see is a condition in which the people who don't have enough and who are living at the very bottom of the global impoverished, had a ladder up, that we use some of these resources to their benefit. And in fact, I would argue, as I believe a lot of libsocs would, that some of the natural resources currently appropriated by the state are the natural inheritance of all humans. That the land currently held by the federal government, in fact, belongs to me and you and everybody who lives here. It doesn't belong to the government. By what right do they seize the land on which we were born? And tell us
that we can all agree that the state has no claim to any of this property that we say is theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. What would that do for society if people were allowed to just go out and homestead and build? Be like, dude, that's it. We're going over here to do our thing. Here's Ancapistan. We're making it. You don't get to tell us we can't.
Right. I think that would too kind of eliminate some of the the fears that especially more extreme left-wingers have about a capitalist or a hyper private property society that they see today is without the state in that equation, where yes, everybody is homesteading and property is rightfully held through improving it, or however society determines you get to hold property, versus having the state, kind of dole out things and suck up, how much land in the United States does the federal government own? It's probably close to 25 to 40%
a bunch of land out west.
In the state of California.
I'd give that to natives, basically.
about 50% of the state of California is held by the government, state and federal.
Nevada is like 84% or more, last I checked.
It is fucking ridiculous, dude. If we just decided that was ours, that's why I liked Zoltan Istvan when he ran as a libertarian for governor. He proposed a federal land dividend where he's like, dude, that land belongs to the people. So we lease it to corporations under the, rules that they have to give it back in good condition. They can't toxify it and pollute and whatever, but let them use it for private business. Use the proceeds that you generate from this to fund your social safety nets so that they're not funded by taxes. So it's like a free market social safety net. I was like so fucking down. It's tax neutral. And in fact, you roll back taxes because then you now we're not paying for that stuff out of pocket. It's just we lease this land to businesses and you put the revenue to good purposes. Make everybody happy.
I would give the land as reparations to Native Americans and Black people. That would be basically my idea.
All of California, in that case, should probably be given back to Mexico because we stole it from them. If we're going the route of reparations for war crimes, there's land to there's a lot of people to fix, but I think they might want Los Angeles back. They named it.
But there is a difference between one state takes the land of another state versus you literally ethnically cleanse people from their land and take it from them.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It's all fucked up. But there was also a concerted effort. I don't even want to say what the operation was called, but you should go look it up. It's a racial slur that begins with W, operation, where the government actually the United States government worked with the Mexican government to deport lawful immigrants, people who would come here with the rules, because the Mexican government was like, you're taking all our laborers, we want them back. And the U.S. government was like, hey, we don't want Mexicans, so you can have them. And they worked together to deport people who belonged here lawfully. So to some extent, while it wasn't genocide in the way that was so with the Native Americans, it was actually a concerted effort against a racial minority to remove them from this is ours now. Not only was there a military action taken that was completely unjustified to get them out of here, but yeah, there's been a concerted effort ever since. And even politicians like Dianne Feinstein, who is still in power today, have supported fucking policies like this, really strong anti-immigration policies, which seems so out of place in a state like California. But I agree. No, let's give all this stolen shit back all day.
I think if we abolish the state today, obviously the people that had previously homesteaded the land before the state had taken it, they get first dibs on whatever was taken. I think that's pretty fair.
I almost feel like just declaring them autonomous territories, because one thing about going back and undoing the unjust military actions of empires of old is it's really tough. You end up I think somebody in the comments just said something about that. Look, you're carving up land like empires. I'm yeah, you're kind of right. None of these places exist anymore, and these wrongs, we can never atone for them because the wronged are already in the grave. We're never going to be able to give a good enough apology to the people that suffered for these lines to be drawn as they are. So I think the best solution is actually just for the state of California to secede from the Union and become its own country, an independent nation that decides for itself how it wants to govern itself, free of the burdens of the United States and their bullshit. It's no, actually we're no longer a part of our blood-soaked past. We're going to do our own thing now.
Yeah, break it all up. No more federal government. The smaller we can get, the better. Yeah, I'm all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely agreed.
Get all these states to leave one by one, 50 independent little governments.
Somebody asked, what about people that had lived on land without homesteading? I would say if you lived on that land, you homesteaded it. You used it as your home.
Yeah, homesteading is going to vary culturally, basically, and then we just got to sort of make a decision of how we're going to divvy it up, because I don't think there's any objective way to say, this amount of labor into the land, it means you homesteaded it, basically.
Right. That's like a Lockean theory of property, where you get to this, if you mix your labor with the land. I actually prefer Nozick, even though he wasn't super fond of anarchists and he tried to dispute us. I think that his theory of property is incredibly helpful, even to me as a left-leaning guy. Justice and acquisition, the notion of where did you get this, did you get it justly, is really it's very helpful to me in determining if I respect your property. If you built your house, or you bought your house justly, or you bought the land justly from the previous owner, all day, you own that. I don't believe that I have any right to come appropriate your property. But like we've discussed, the U.S. government and their claim to a lot of this land is that they fucking literally killed the people who were here and stole it. I don't regard that as justice and acquisition. You have stolen this land, and so I don't really respect your right to it.
And they just pointed at a piece of dirt over there, never even touched it, said it was theirs.
Yeah.
Well,
did nothing.
for the like I don't know the chat, like Ayn Rand was just wrong about Native Americans not improving the land. That's just a ridiculous Ayn Rand like statement about ancient civilizations.
No, like she knows nothing about like
Yeah.
there are huge farming cultures
Yeah.
in native like the Pima, the like I live in Phoenix, Arizona, which is on the Salt River Valley, and that was all farmed for thousands of years by the Hohokam and then the Pima. Like to say that Native Americans didn't work the land is just absurd.
Well, and the notion of improvement is incredibly subjective. If you live in a heavily industrialized nation, to you, improvement is filling the air with black smoke and churning out fucking BMWs. Like, I don't think that's a fucking improvement. In fact, it might be argued that those who lived a nomadic lifestyle in balance with what they took from the planet and what they gave back might have done more to preserve that than we do. You know? Bias.
Yeah.
Industrialist bias.
The main issue I've been running into, I've been trying to break bread with mutualists lately. They're driving me crazy, but I appreciate them. Is butting up against occupancy and use and homesteading, and I think they actually kind of in practice merge, because I don't think anybody actually believes that if you homestead something, you like say you just shit on a piece of dirt, you don't own that eternally. All right, you. At some point that becomes abandoned property, and that's the way that occupancy and use works too. They have absentee property in it. I think at some point they converge, and you have to come as a community to a point where you say that's abandoned. Okay, so at what point does somebody's property become abandoned? And either way, occupancy and use or homesteading, you have to come to that threshold. And I think that's basically what we're looking at is neither of those are like purely in theory are how property actually works. It's kind of a mixture of the two.
Yeah, but animals literally pee on stuff to declare it their property. So I think again, this is all just culturally based. I don't think there's an objective, really, right or wrong answer. You your society just have to come to some solution. And I just hope that benefits society as a whole. I think there should be some concerns about, you should be able to say screw the rest of society. If I have some great painting, like I got to keep it. Like screw you. I'm not gonna like put it on display for anyone else. Like I should have that right. But
look,
I want to.
I'm a man who wants to own land someday, and yet I question to what extent any of us own land. I'm gonna be here for 100 years tops, and I smoked cigarettes for a good minute, so maybe like 60 years. Like it may not be that long. By what right do I claim posthumous and eternal ownership of a plot of dirt? Like I'm borrowing it, bro. I'm just here using shit like anyone else. So I mean, like, yeah, I think we might need to reconsider our claim of ownership to natural resources, finite natural resources like land and water. In this, it's like it's not good to think of them as products. It's only holding us back.
Well, someone did say, I prefer the idea of occupancy and usage rather than ownership. I think that might be, a way that you kind of shift culturally, and then you culturally develop standards. Yeah, there's no finite way to define. You don't use your property for 2 years and 3 months, and suddenly it's not yours, or you've lost the right to it, but those things do develop culturally and socially, and would vary vastly across the globe. But yeah, I kind of like that, kind of shifting your mindset from just straight up ownership, I own this, to that occupancy and usage thought.
So, even with homesteading, I think at some point that decays. If you're not working that land anymore and you just fucked off somewhere else for 10 years, you're not working the land. How could you say it's yours?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, right now that current idea of ownership is, oh well, I own it, so whatever.
And that's an unpopular thing in libertarian circles. I question the relationship of individuals to property. That doesn't mean I'm coming to take your toothbrush. I really do respect your right to own things and possess items. It's just when you get to things that are like necessary for the species, I get to questioning, like, by what right do you hold this as an investment? Why are there more empty houses in Los Angeles than homeless people? because you view them as investments and not as a human right. If you shifted that belief a little, you could still have a robust market economy and just kind of remove some things from it. But yeah, not everybody likes that idea.
I mean, you could just like take away all their like homes, but that would just work once because all of a sudden people aren't going to build homes anymore if you just
Get rid of the zoning laws.
Well, and I don't like that. We saw what happened in fucking China when they were just like, yeah, let's go steal all the land. And well, that didn't really work to anyone's favor. I think you left a lot of people sore, and you've bred a lot of dissolution and unhappiness among your own folk. It's like, I'm not trying to steal shit from anybody, but when I look around and I see this much suffering and there's all this wealth and all this stuff just sitting there and no one's goddamn using it, and then there's all these people who are living in tents and fucking overpasses. It's like a third world country in Los Angeles. It's like, I feel like we could do a little better. I feel like we could do it without guillotining fucking Bezos or whatever, but I feel like we could do a little better. Like, come on.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is this doing better, the transforming society. It's a process. It's not going to instantly happen. The state isn't going to end tomorrow. It's it's going to slowly dissolve, and these standards, these changes, are going to start to take effects slowly, unless people continue to storm the Capitol to install their fascist dictator. I guess that's the thing is guillotining Bezos isn't going to solve anything that is societal ills. It's just not. And so people that want to do that, really, it's just not a solution. It's going to be a long, drawn out cultural and societal change that will take a very long time, something I probably will never see. But yeah, the instant solutions, like cutting people's heads off, just not going to work, because that's only going to empower the state itself.
I don't want to kill anybody. I don't see any reason to make violence the core of my vision when it comes to revolution. I've seen bloody revolution, not in my day. Thank God I don't live in that era, but throughout history, I've studied bloody revolution. I've seen what happens, both proletarian revolution and authoritarian top down from those with capital. You've seen it go both ways, and it's never good. The forceful removal of one government to install another is never helpful. So I don't care, man. I'm not trying to come and cut anyone's head off. I'm not trying to eat the rich. I'm trying to make sure that guy has a sandwich. Is that a humble enough goal? Can we admit that this is not a difficult thing to achieve, that we treat people with a little human dignity?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize also that anarchism isn't a one-size-fits-all policy. We're saying everybody has the ability to organize their society however they'd like, voluntarily, without coercion. If somebody wants to have a market society, if somebody wants to have a communal society, whatever. Like, it's not a one-size-fits-all policy. The laws aren't going to be uniform. It's like people are going to come up with their own communal, like in their community, they're going to have to come up with their own common law. They're going to have their own sets of rules, and that's fine. It's just allow people the opportunity to do that. We don't all have to agree. Just live and let live.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
Gosh dang right.
Sorry, Dave, we're not eating the rich.
Some people are like, that's what they chant, is they want to go and take the stuff from the people who haven't. I feel you. I understand what you're saying. I just personally don't find that to be the best way to express what I'm trying to say, because people hear that and it grates against their ears like nails on a chalkboard. They're just like, you're violent and you want to steal shit because you're petty and you don't have stuff and you hate people who do. And I'm like, that's not my motivation. In fact, what I'm saying is it's gross to me that there are people living in insane opulence, and then there are people who don't have basic amenities, who are living in absolute squalor. Like, that's my problem. Is there a way to address this that doesn't require force? Pray that you find people like me and not the people who want to eat the rich. Because if you give them long enough, you treat them like shit long enough, they're going to come for your heads. And you're going to wish it was soft, gentle, loving, squishy people like me who are just saying, can't we work this out? Can't we find an answer? Like, you'll be wishing that it was time for negotiations.
Yeah.
I think what we have to do is we have to refocus. So our goal is to refocus society to look at things in a vertical manner. in terms of like opposition. Instead of fighting each other horizontally left and right, we need to recognize that our enemy is authority. Our enemy is people telling us how to live our lives, not allowing us to make our own decisions, not respecting our autonomy. We all need to start recognizing that, and that's bottom unity is very important in that respect. And I really want to work on that and start at the LP, and eventually, we'll try to spread that as far as we can. But we need to refocus everybody from left and right to up and down. Start looking things top down, like who's controlling you, who's not allowing you to do this. It's not a question of who's in authority, who can I put in authority that will do things my way. It's about that should not exist in the first place. Like, people should not be able to order me around instead of considering, well, I got to get my guy in power. No, it's like nobody should have that authority, and we really need to reinforce that with people. And in order to do that, to spread our message to other people, we have to do that first in the LP. We have to attain bottom unity in the LP before we can do that, societally, before we can spread a message like that.
Yeah. All right. I know we had some people bring it up. Some recent developments in kind of the liberty world here. So there was some things that came out about. I forget the name of the organization.
Young Americans for Liberty.
Yeah, Young Americans for Liberty.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah. Although it does seem, seems like they're clearly just not responding to it at all. But it does seem to not be having a good effect on them. A lot of people kind of disavowing and shutting them out.
Yeah, I would.
I've
seen some people associated with YAL say, no evidence, no proof. So I guess witness testimony doesn't matter to them at all.
Well, I've only heard about this kind of vaguely on the Facebook channels and shit, and it's weird. I used to be with Yale. I actually started a chapter. I got into a big lawsuit because of them. It was I was actually quite big with Yale, and I ended up feeling very alienated and drifting away because I would attend their meetings and they'd have, build the wall Trumpers fucking it didn't feel as libertarian as it was sold to me. Like, my chapter in my little corner was explicitly opposed to the two-party system. We were very a cool little group, but when I got to see the broader Yale movement, I kind of fell away. My interactions with Cliff were mixed. At first he seemed to have no love for libertarians and hate our guts. And then at other times he'd I don't know. I could never really get a good read on him, so I don't know what to make of it. I genuinely don't know enough about the situation, but it sounded like he did something bad with some lady, right?
Yeah, there's
allegedly.
Seems like there's some pretty systemic issues within the organization when it comes to sexual harassment. Not willing to change or resolve it, and make the changes that would be needed to address them. Yeah, it's not a pretty sight.
The claim is that the victims try to go through some process to have Cliff held accountable for his actions, and they were basically told, well, he's just really good at his job, so there's nothing we can do, and then just effing off and just burying all these complaints, and now they're all coming to fruition, which is good. And these women are very brave to speak out against Cliff and other people that are certainly going to try to demonize them. The best we can do is to support them as best as we can. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can make sure this doesn't happen again in the Liberty movement.
So was it well established that he did the things he was accused of? Or I've not heard anything but one.
Well, I've seen 3 or 4, if I recall, from looking at the first person who came forward, then got a bunch of DMs from other people to corroborate this this character evidence, his behaviors, and another person came forward as well. And I almost don't. Can we link some of these things to this, or? I Thanks.
It'd be worth it to me to read them. Look, I try to be a very fair-minded person. I never, right, left, or in the middle. I don't want to jump to conclusions about anyone. But the truth is, if this is so, I mean, I would say it's pretty manipulative to take people who are looking to you for a career, or like who are trying to build their political profile, and to use that to your advantage sexually. That would be a little disturbing.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll throw one of the Twitter posts in the comments. Let's see. I've got a Facebook post.
I've seen a lot of comments about blue pills.
Are we selling drugs in the comments now? That's very libertarian of us.
Just the blue pills, which is either Xanax or Viagra.
Why not both?
Nobody knows. They don't have any labels on them, but I believe they're one of two.
I'll have whatever Heiss is having, whichever blue pills he's talking about. He's out there. He must be having a good time.
All right. So,
I thought we had a new friend. It's just a screen. Hello, screen.
which is still our friends. Screens are our friends.
Oh.
That's a bummer, man. This poor girl. That's what I mean, though, dude. Is like when a guy is like older than you and in a position of power, like for your job or whatever. That's whack.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. Yeah.
Fortunately, it's a pretty widespread phenomenon, and the libertarian movement is not
No exception.
Right. I mean, this is just this is not just another, but it's yet another sad story of where people taking advantage of a position of power, and it just results in very toxic things within an organization.
This is why the anarchists told you to abolish hierarchies. You should have listened, and now you get fucking this shit.
You didn't listen to Kevin. Look where you're at.
I'm telling you, dude. Now society's all fucked up. Now you got people in charge of stuff. It's horrible.
Yeah. Yep. But pretty serious allegations of Cliff trying to use his position to tell someone to give him sexual favors, and pretty disgusting. And I guess radio silence right now from YAL, but I mean,
and the part of this
on the screen and the other ones, I think that if you get enough voices together, like you can start like condemning, like. I think
people need to speak up, and like unfortunately, like a lot of the victims don't want to speak up. It's traumatic, and I understand that.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but
and there's a whole other dimension to this too. I mean, apart from just abusing the relationship with this individual, I mean, isn't he married or something like this? Like he has a fiance or a wife?
Yeah, there's this cheating aspect of it too. But it is messed up in that sense. But
it's just all around, just not a very high class thing to do.
Oh yeah, and of course, he's supposed to be like this conservative who is so respectful of people, and you can trust him to be gentlemanly, but just a little scratch on the surface, and this is sort of behavior that's condoned in this organization and hidden and basically encouraged by refusing to punish any of these behaviors.
Right.
I do dislike the notion of someone not being accountable to their behavior simply because of their position in an organization. That's not good. If anyone's above the law, you've created a system of corruption.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with the fake Hudak in the comments there. I'm ready for a bottom unity takeover. What about you guys?
There's a fake Hudak?
Fake Hudak right there.
I'm only for the Dave Smith Unity takeover, where everyone who's not for his unity is like no longer a libertarian and kicked out. Great idea for unity. That's cool.
Yeah, YAL really bummed me out, dude. Like I thought that, because I don't want to fucking join no college Republicans or these Democrats or anything. There wasn't any like libertarian clubs to fucking get with, and so this was sold to me as a, we're not Republicans, we're fucking libertarians. I was like, sweet. And then I get involved with the organization. You come to find it is very much shilling for the Republican Party. There was no love for libertarians like that whole time, and I was like, I don't know if this is a group I could really get with. And I've heard a few other stories, not necessarily related to something as serious as sexual allegations, but I've heard other stories about just generally being shitty to certain activists who had like put a lot of time and effort on the line and then found themselves kind of hung out to dry. So I've been wary of the organization. It was kind of a bummer for me. I was like, man, I wish there was a powerful libertarian voice out there recruiting young activists and getting stuff done. But it seems like this is just more GOP nonsense.
Yeah. And it is. It's It's generally a heavily, GOP aligned organization. But I mean, well, but Ron Paul does show up to take pictures with everybody.
It's unfortunate that's kind of become a litmus test on Facebook for who's a terrible person. Is they got a Ron Paul profile picture.
I got a Ron Paul photo. I photobombed him in Acapulco, Mexico, and the fucking federal police came up and like grabbed me by the neck and shit. They were not happy that I jumped in the. But like it was all in good fun. I wasn't trying to hurt Dr. Paul. I just wanted to get a photo, and I was like, So that's a little better than the Yao kids, mostly.
I give Ron Paul credit. I mean, a lot of us would not be where we're at now as anarchists without him.
Yeah.
And I give him credit for that. But I can still recognize that he's a man that's very flawed. But I look at him as kind of like Liberty Grandpa. He might say some crazy shit from time to time, but whatever. Like, thanks for sending me down the path, Grandpa. But I'm gonna go my own way now.
There are no heroes. That's what I've learned. Yeah. Being intellectually honest with myself, there are no heroes. I'm a leftist. Some of my favorite writers were super fucking anti-Semitic. They were just super racist. They hated women. They hated black people. Like some of these brilliant writers on theory were just deeply flawed, disgusting men in their hearts in a lot of ways. And the same is true most everywhere you look. Just don't look for people to be perfect. Take the good from them without insisting.
Ideas, right. Not personalities.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, now we've instituted the Mighty Ducks 2 test.
We've got a third-rate comedian in the comments trying to promote his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, nothing screams replacement than a team like the good team having minorities in the movie and Mighty Ducks 2.
And can you believe that there was a brunette?
Iceland.
The coach's girlfriend was a brunette.
Yeah, brunette, blonde.
Not a blonde. He didn't go for the blonde who was portrayed as evil from Iceland.
People with brown hair like me were kind of only like half white. It's really only blonde-haired people who are truly white.
How terrible! How terrible!
The Mighty Ducks has done so much damage to our culture.
Don't criticize that. He's a hero.
Will we ever heal from the Mighty Ducks? Will we?
I hope so. I really do. I hope we heal from the Mighty Ducks, and I hope Lou finds his peace after all these years of the Mighty Ducks existing.
I saw a comment saying that you don't understand that Trump is anti-authoritarian, and this is true. He only wanted the coup attempt so that he could give up power. That was his entire goal, to seize it so he could give it up like a true hero.
Yeah, well, Vermin Supreme is going to take our guns and give us better ones, so I already have a fascist dictator I can trust.
And the ponies.
Why would I want a second-rate dictator when I can get the best? And free ponies, come on. I already got my vermin ponies. I got like 5 of them now.
I just trust a man who's willing to show me his dental records at any point in time.
2020 could have been so great, you guys. If Vermin got the nomination, and I wanted it, and I pushed for it, and I voted as a delegate, but if Vermin got the nomination, tell me that would have been the funniest shit.
It would have been funny.
Dude, that would have been
for the movement.
It's just been such a depressing cycle. Everyone's being a dick to each other. Everybody trying to take this shit seriously. It's just 2 old doddering men like, I'll fist fight you behind the barn. Like, shut the fuck up. And we get Vermin out there with his stick. That would have been entertainment. It would have been the best year ever.
I just remembered, like, we didn't talk about coronavirus at all. Like, I guess I differ from a lot of libertarians, in that I think that there was a really good way to fight against coronavirus, which is just to have mass testing, more enforcement of social distancing and mask wearing and contact tracing, stuff like that. Countries like Taiwan did, and we wouldn't really have needed these shutdowns as much, and people's businesses would have been intact. But I guess that our government's just so incompetent that they can't organize anything, and they prevent us from organizing anything to do these mass tests in the first place through FDA regulations. It's incredibly upsetting for my take to be an extreme minority position, and the major position being that masks don't do anything, and actually like quarantining has like no effect whatsoever on the pandemic case rates. And I don't know, I'm just bitter and salty about it, to be honest.
One thing libertarians always we missed a great opportunity to criticize the federal government for the way it handled this back in March and April, and even February and January. They knew this was coming. They fucking fumbled on it. They prevented the private sector from actually responding to it. They kept us from creating tests. They kept us from testing. They outright stole medical supplies on multiple occasions from hospitals and from straight from the manufacturers to put into their stockpile that they had reduced. I mean, we have so much ammunition to go after the federal government as libertarians for the way they handled this at the very beginning, and everybody misses that.
Yeah. I think I'm somewhere between our friend Drew and the general populace here. I'm not one of these people who's just like, fuck it, go outside and cough on people, dude. We're all chill here. Like there's a very flippant approach to things, and you can take it seriously and reject, these mandates that are forcing people to lose their businesses, because on one hand, the government is telling you can't go out and work, and on the other hand, it's telling you, I'll give you $600 after 6 months. These are mutually exclusive. You got to pick one. If you're going to force people to stay home, you need to take care of them. And if you're not prepared to take care of them, you need to let them go about their business. And the unfortunate truth of this, the only right answer is individual responsibility. If you're like myself and you're a young, healthy guy and you can go out and work and you can wear a mask and do your job and fucking handle life, get down. And if you're the sort of person who can't, who is at risk, we need to make accommodations for you so that life can go on and we don't all stop and die and starve, but that, we also take it with the appropriate gravity, and we don't just leave people, hanging like they've been for fucking a year now.
I'm a Fakertarian on this position.
There's something between telling everyone how to live every moment of their lives and disregarding this and saying it's a scam. There's something in between. You can take it seriously and you can make the right decisions for you and your family. And that's the fucking libertarian answer. And the only unfortunate thing here is that people don't use their responsibility well in this situation. People are just trying to make such a point to each other that it's now a political issue to wear a mask. Look, I don't think it's fucking super comfortable. I don't think it's necessarily the best way to stop it, but it's probably, it's something you can do. Why not? Take the fucking step, make the people around you comfortable, even if you're grumbling about it and you're like, this is not going to fucking stop a fucking international virus. You're right. It's not going to stop an international virus. But if that's going to make the people chill, just don't make that the hill you die on. Why are you trying to fucking go start fights in your grocery store over mask wearing and shit? Just take precautions, be responsible, and let people fucking get on with their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, definitely agreed.
100% on that.
So I did have a charge from the member of the cathedral that oversees us. Drew, I was to ask you a question. Ultimately, from what I understand, you did leave the LPMC. What was the driving force behind that? Because when you first came on our episode, you were still part of the LPMC.
Wait, is this the person I'm thinking of who's DM'd me 20 times asking me why I left the LPMC? Oh my gosh. Okay. But anyway,
he might have a few white claws in him. So.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
I didn't leave. I think they just saw that I was mocking them plenty of times in the Fakertarians group and just kicked me out basically. That's how I remember. I support the idea of the Mises Caucus. I remember when Ron Paul was running in 2012, and I remember when it was an anti-war movement and I thought it was amazing, and I want that to continue. It's just that I think they do it in a very bad way in many ways. I think almost all libertarians, generally speaking, are more good than bad. I just don't like that I can't humorously mock someone or criticize someone without me apparently trying to cancel them, which I'm not trying to do when I criticize people.
Yeah. No bully. You broke the no bully no bully
If Dave Smith has a
cult leader
good take,
rules.
I'll share it and say this was a good take. But you had to allow. And recently, I was criticizing Spike in the Fakertarians group. It's not that I hate Spike. Sometimes I overreact and get pissed off by what Spike says. But
Blasphemer. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
No, you're fine.
yeah. I don't know. When I became a libertarian, like I really solidified my beliefs. First, I kind of got into libertarianism through Ron Paul, and I really liked the anti-war stuff. And then my beliefs in libertarians got pretty solidified by watching YouTube videos on economics, and I thought that this philosophy was really, based on. I just think it was the truth, and I think that I had to sort of follow that tradition and say, listen, you may think that this is a good optics statement, but I just think it's wrong. So I'm just going to criticize you for it.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make organizations stronger. It literally is. You're supposed to be able to criticize from within and just say hey, this is not a good look. This is not a good thing we're doing. That's why I joined the LSC, was because I was in the same way I kind of feel about Mises, I believe in a strong left-wing libertarian caucus. I believe in a strong right-wing libertarian caucus. I want you to succeed and prosper and go out. But if you're doing something fucked up, I'm going to call you out. That's not very libertarian of you, dog. You can't be fucking spouting communisms under the... when they endorsed Matt Keenel, that was just a really bad call. What are you fucking thinking? That guy's... He's a bad look for everybody, and now we're the boogeyman of the party because of that. So
no tanks, no helicopters.
Yeah.
I don't think even Mises was a right winger. He had some pretty. He praised the French Revolution. Mises' main points when debating socialists was to say that there's a democracy in the marketplace, and there's a democracy to how capital goods are, way things are organized in our society, and that's something that I very much respect from Ludwig von Mises. I just wish that more people in the caucus would focus on those ideas if they want to be named after the Ludwig von Mises caucus.
Right.
Not
more Mises, less Mises Institute. It kind of seems to be the.
If the LPMC had focused on economics, we wouldn't have an issue here. The problem is it's become a culture war grift, and the more money that's coming in, the more they've got that incentive to keep doing that, unfortunately, and it's just going to keep rolling. They're like $7,000 monthly now, or something like that. And Heiss is living high on the hog on that. He loves it.
I'd like to get a beer. I live near Heiss. I'd like to get another beer with him or something sometime. Maybe shoot the shit. Maybe work things out.
Well, I'm sure in person he probably might be a lot more tolerable. I think that's the case with most libertarians.
Well, I know that he can get angry.
I liked Heiss. I actually did. We did not agree on hardly anything, but I considered him like a friend, and he deleted me one day without saying a word. He can be very difficult to have discussions with because he's not one to listen. He's just usually waiting for his next turn to say stuff. So
I had a polite discussion with him on borders and just saying that our position is not that there should be state-controlled borders that are open. We're saying there should be no border policy, and I have a disagreement with him on that, and he fucking deleted me over it. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I don't delete people over politics. Even people like Heiss, who have explicitly beat their chest and stood at a crowd and said, we need to get these goddamn lib socks out of the party. We're going to chase them out. We're going to make them leave. We're going to make them uncomfortable here. You're literally calling for me to be purged, and I'm treating you with respect and friendship, and you're just going to go behind my back. That's so wussy, dude. Come on. Argue and back your ideas, and at least stand and counter the things said to you. It just feels weak to me that your response to this is, well, whatever. I don't need that friendship.
We all benefit from discourse. It makes us stronger as a party. Yeah. When we start shutting our doors to people and we stop listening and we stop talking, that's when the problems really arise, because now we've just got this polarization. If we're willing to listen to each other, we can work things out. We can come to agreements. But we're at this point where it's black and white. The loser brigade and us. That's the way they look at it.
Yeah.
What's going
Commenter asked, "What's going on?" I have no clue.
None of us know, man.
Yeah.
It's all a mystery, bro.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah, what do you think the next 4 years for Trump is going to be like? Like, what do you think? What path do you think will end up going down?
He's gonna get his own like news like website / station, and he's gonna just be like shouting from his like tower for the next 4 years until he can run again in the primaries. And I don't know if anyone can stand against him because he does really well in the debates by just basically bullying the other contestants. They can't really do anything about it. Just looks really good socially to people apparently. And then he's going to run again, and it's going to depend on what the Democrats have done for the past 4 years or the next 4 years. It's going to determine whether he gets reelected. And he won like 70 million votes. I mean, that's a lot. Like I don't know what other like Republicans would have gotten that kind of attention, but maybe with the social media crackdowns, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the capitalist thought police have like done what's right and like censored him and kept him off websites, and his popularity will drop. So maybe the capitalist thought police can save the day.
I mean, when you have close to 70 million voters, like, you're not going away. Okay,
Yeah.
This guy is going to continue grifting. His entire life has been a grift. Failed businesses behind him, schemes behind him. This man is a grifter by trade. He's going to keep going. He's going to have himself a little media empire to rival the Blaze or the Daily Caller or Breitbart. He's going to have his own little media empire. That's what's going to happen because he's got this huge audience. It's not going anywhere. We're going to be fighting this for many years to come.
In fact, 200 years down the line, his consciousness will have been removed from his flesh and placed into a tiny cyborg that just walks around the White House at about knee level and just yells commands at people. Hey, do this. We're just going to keep him around for comedy, dude. Like, we can't let him go. He's a national treasure.
Reminding me of Robo Nixon from Futurama.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Hashtag never forget. Like, students will take field trips to the White House. Do you remember how low we fell? Do you remember? Let's take a look. This was the president. This was how he behaved. This is real, actual behavior of a man who had nuclear weaponry. Check this out. And we'll never make that mistake again, right? He said optimistically.
Yeah, I just wonder. Oh, Trump considering Giuliani and Dershowitz for impeachment defense team. That'll go well.
He should just resign, and then he can have Pence pardon him.
That's the thing. That's what I was thinking. Is like he should probably just resign, because Pence can then pardon him, and then you won't have to deal with the self pardon debacle, because that will end up at the Supreme Court. You will have. It just would be way easier for him to resign.
But he probably hates Pence too much now to give him he doesn't want to give him the dignity of being president for 10 days.
Right.
He reportedly
said, "I don't want to be your friend anymore."
Yeah.
Wow. They totally had a fucking an end to the bromance.
They did.
Y'all.
Trump is emotionally a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
That's just no way to put it. He is emotionally a 12-year-old. So I don't want to be friends with you anymore is totally right along in with that.
But he's 70 years old. You can't be losing friends at 70, poor guy. That's no way to treat the last people you got.
Yeah,
President Trump, reconsider. Call him, bro. Love knows no pride. Call Pence and let him know you care while there's time.
Not too late, bro.
Go run to the airport and let him back before he gets on Air Force 2 or whatever.
Do you guys remember when Joe Jorgensen wanted to put Alan Dershowitz on Supreme?
Oh man, that was one
Supreme
of the
Court.
biggest fucking blunders. Jesus Christ.
Just absurd.
I did not particularly like Jo Jorgensen. She's a nice lady, just not a really super great candidate. And that's not a nice thing to say in the libertarian circles. Everybody's like, you got to support the candidate. I'm like, yeah, I voted for her, but she fucked up 1.5 million times. Can we be real about the fact that we should have learned the lesson from 2016 and not tried to put someone up there who was soft-spoken and gentle and sensible? No. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, she's smart. She's cool. She got a doctorate. Cool. Did they give a fuck about Gary Johnson? They annihilated him. They swept him under the rug, and nobody gave a shit. So why didn't we give him somebody wild? Look, like, it might be a little more controversial. I was even like, why don't we give him Kokesh? At least give him someone who can fucking argue, so that when he gets on the microphone and he says something shocking and jarring, like, the country is forced to take notice. Because Kokesh, you might have problems with. I don't know what to believe on that. You might feel one way or another about Kokesh, but he is a strong orator. And he served in the military, and so when he says things about the crimes committed by the U.S. military, like, you are forced to listen. I feel like that would have.
People don't want like incrementalism. They want something different completely, and we're not offering that.
Yeah, dude. They went with Trump. They went with someone who could just duke it out. So give them a bulldog, dude. Send someone who can trade shots. Send someone who can fucking stand on their own and have some aggression. I didn't see that in Joe. She was very kind of tripping on her words all the time. And the words that she finally came to were not the strongest libertarian phrases I would have envisioned.
We had a situation where our vice presidential candidate was outshining our presidential candidate.
All day. Yeah, I voted for Spike. I could only reconcile the vote for the ticket because Spike was such a fucking good dude. I was like, he respectfully requested my endorsement, and when I didn't give it to him, he was still just like the nicest guy about it. Joe came up and tried to get my endorsement, and she was pretty chill when I told her I was not about it, but she seemed kind of upset. I don't know. Like, she felt like she should have got it. I'm like, look at me, dude. Do I look like, am I your candidate? I'm clearly in Camp Vermin. Come on.
What's with the
Kevin voting for Vermin? I couldn't see that.
Bring me a time machine, lady, and we'll talk. Till then, ponies. No, she's a nice lady. That's the thing, is I don't hate Jo Jorgensen. I know those people who are vocally critical of her are like, fuck her, she was a terrible kid. Like, no, she's a fine candidate and a smart lady, and she's perfectly moral and whatever, but some of the things, she's behaving like a politician is supposed to. That's why I didn't like her. The fact that she was so worried about pleasing people and reaching over here and saying, oh, I don't want to be too controversial. I was like, oh, cool. She supports Black Lives Matter. Oh, no, she's just totally pandering. She's like, roll that back. Oh, no, can't do that because communism. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like
cultural Marxism.
Antifas are the real fascists. And it's like, you can't say both things. You can appeal to the right. You can appeal to the left, but you can't say BLM and then Antifa is the real fascists. And you just can't. You can't do that.
The model was Spike. Spike went out. He talked with BLM. He talked with everybody. He met people where they were at. He offered them solutions. And he got people to vote for him that otherwise would have had no clue that the libertarians were even an option. If we just keep offering an incremental change to what's going on, that doesn't attract people. They want radical change. People want something different. They're tired of what we have. And unfortunately, Joe was not offering that, or she wasn't articulating that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I put on Joe, but on messaging. But Miss Peter Quiznos on the top left. Do you guys want to talk about Maj? Like, a bit? We haven't talked about him at all.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about Amash.
No, Maj. Teresh.
Oh, Maj. Okay.
I mean,
mess.
Nothing beats telling a hardworking female Libertarian Party activist to, like, nothing encourages someone like that more than telling them to suck your fucking dick, dude. Like,
this is why we don't have more women in the liberty movement.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because literally, to say suck, and then she has a pretty mouth. She gets God, it was so bad.
Oh man, fuck him.
But I've heard so many times, like, from people, I'm not going to name names, but I've heard it from people in the Mises Caucus too, that, well, actually, that's just black culture, and you just can't accept that. Like, and you don't want black people in the party. I'm like, that is so unbelievable. Like, it's so unbelievably racist to me to unironically say, well, yeah, that's just something black people do, Like,
all black people are misogynistic, and
they can't. Black people can control their emotions, Like, unbelievably cringe.
To be the sort of person, I always try to see the best in everybody, and I understand a lot, I hate to be devil's advocate all the time. I understand it as more of a thing in, like, poor culture. I came from a poor ass neighborhood too, and, like, there was some very gross talk about women in growing up, and I had to part myself from the sort of language I grew up in. As I grew up and I came to question the way that people around me behaved, I was like, oh, like this is actually not a super nice way to talk about a girl you like that's kind of gross, you know. So I'm sensitive to that, and that if you were raised in that, if that's the soup you swim in, it might not even necessarily occur to you that that's a sexist thing, that's just literally like how your big brother spoke that way, your dad spoke that way, all the people in your life spoke that way. You don't even necessarily know to question that that's the fucking thing about you, but it doesn't excuse the behavior. I just think that, you know, there's room for both of those. Like, yeah, I understand some people talk in a very harsh way, and it's not necessarily to be sexist. It's just because that's the way they speak. But they should be held accountable.
Who let this fucking imposter in here?
Is that real, John?
It's not me.
Oh
No,
shit!
definitely not.
No, not the real John Hood.
What's up,
Not
guys?
the real John Hudak. Yo,
Fucking usurper.
welcome.
I'm the real John Hudak.
I'm on my phone.
How was the cathedral? How was the cathedral meeting?
It was good. I got my Soros check. It was a fun time. We got some nice
Yeah.
plans coming up. We're gonna like enslave everyone and let all the immigrants in. It's gonna be a good time.
Nice.
Don't forget to put cancer in all the vaccines.
But after they have taken over, do you think they'll allow like my people to be in Mighty Ducks 3 as protagonists?
I think you missed it's not cancer in the vaccine. It's actually HIV in the vaccine.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
missed
That's
the
right. Whatever terrible affliction we're going to put in there, make sure you do it. I don't want to forget.
Yep.
Oh, it's in. Don't worry.
Okay, perfect.
Satan will rise again or whatever.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
oh, we're being asked if you're the figure skater from the Mighty Ducks too.
No, John Hudak is clearly Emilio Estevez. We all know this. Emilio Estevez just fell off the face of the planet and came back as Hudak.
That's what happened. Oh, I think he froze.
What a surprise.
Yeah, there
He is
he
a
was.
creature. He is a creature outside time and space. He is not bound by the fourth dimension.
The AI is not that great yet. We're still working on it.
Robot John, you're back. Kinda.
Nope. Nope. Oh,
The vaccine
there
is
he is
gonna
again.
suck out our hockey skills. Yes, that would be a great movie plot. I'm about it. It's just fucking Bill Gates trying to suck out our hockey skills through the vaccine so he can make a team to win the fucking NHL thing. That's all. It's the Mighty Ducks 3, the COVID ning.
Amelia's just that good at acting.
He is the best Sheen.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna get much of John, unfortunately. Just,
Yeah,
That is
I
a-
gotta do more programming on him.
just a frozen picture of him smiling, which I'm definitely not screenshotting right now.
What
at
a
all.
loser.
Totally not taking a screenshot of that. Don't worry, John. That moment doesn't live forever in time.
I'm pretty sure people know John's a deep fake by now.
Yeah, imagine thinking John Hudak is a real person.
In 2021, you still think John's a person? Dude.
I bet. Oh, well, there's still people that believe the moon is real, so.
Goddamn round earthers in here. What are you thinking? Get your head
All
woke.
right. Well, we've been going on for about an hour and 40 minutes. You want to call that a wrap for the night?
I'm pleased to begin or end whenever.
All right. Yeah, I think we'll call it a night, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with who knows what, and I suppose that'll be our first post Biden inauguration. So we'll see where Trump is by then.
Coming to you with live coverage of the revolution. Fakertarians.
You can't switch presidents if we're in the middle of nuclear war.
That's true.
True.
What if you just let one off as a middle finger on the way out? You figure it out, guys.
Yeah, fuck it.
Iran's gonna be mad. Ha 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 ha. Like,
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Drew and Kevin and John's sock account for coming on. What a good time, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Later, alligators.
stay free.
Bye.
Keep waving. Can't stop.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm done waving.
Buy shirt, get money. No, other way. We get money. You send money, we get shirt.